23 sacks. That is the new NFL single-season record set by Myles Garrett in 2025, and now he is taking that historic production to Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Rams have executed a blockbuster trade, acquiring Garrett from the Cleveland Browns for edge rusher Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round pick. This move fundamentally alters the NFC landscape. Daniel, this feels like Les Snead operating at peak aggression. Cleveland parts with a franchise icon. Why now, and why this specific package?
The timing hinges on the intersection of Cleveland's stalled momentum and the Rams' hyper-aggressive window. Andrew Berry, the Browns' general manager, released a statement detailing that they intended for Garrett to be a one-helmet player for his entire career. But the Browns reached a structural crossroads. They are managing an aging core and severe cap constraints. Garrett is 30 years old and scheduled to earn $31.5 million this season. Cleveland had to ask whether keeping a generational talent justified ignoring a haul of premium draft capital and a plug-and-play replacement.
That replacement is Jared Verse, who is not a minor throw-in. He was the 2024 Defensive Rookie of the Year and posted 7.5 sacks last season. Sending away a 25-year-old rising star on a rookie contract that carries a mere $2.2 million cap hit is a massive gamble for Los Angeles. It contradicts the standard NFL team-building philosophy of hoarding cheap young edge rushers to balance the salary cap.
Standard philosophy does not apply to the Rams under Les Snead and Sean McVay. Their operational model discards future certainty for immediate top-tier impact. Verse has immense potential, but Garrett is a proven entity. He has 125.5 career sacks, the most among all active players. He also became the first player in NFL history since 1982 to record at least 12 sacks in 6 consecutive seasons. The Rams are chasing a very specific historical milestone. Super Bowl LXI will be played at their home turf, SoFi Stadium, this season. They want a repeat of their Super Bowl LVI run, and acquiring a player who led the league with 11 third-down sacks last year is their chosen method to secure it.
But let us challenge the wisdom of this top-heavy approach. The Rams have constructed a roster of undeniable stars. They have Matthew Stafford, who won the 2025 NFL MVP with over 4,700 passing yards and 46 touchdowns. Now they add the reigning two-time Defensive Player of the Year. CBS Sports Research noted this makes the 2026 Rams the first team in NFL history to feature the previous season's MVP and DPOY simultaneously. That is a fascinating historical footnote. However, football is a war of attrition. You cannot play an entire season with just 5 stars. Does this trade expose a fatal flaw in their roster depth?
The depth concern is a persistent shadow over the Rams' strategy. Analysts evaluating the NFC West, particularly those following the defending division champion Seattle Seahawks, highlight this exact vulnerability. The argument is that while the gap between Garrett and the rest of the defensive line is vast, the drop-off behind their frontline starters is steep. If one or two of those pillars sustain an injury, the entire structure risks collapse. The Rams are a sports car with a massive engine, but if a tire blows out, there is no spare in the trunk.
We must also consider the locker room economics. The Rams traded away significant draft capital earlier this spring to acquire cornerback Trent McDuffie from the Kansas City Chiefs, immediately giving him a 4-year, $124 million extension. They also signed Jalen Watson in free agency to a 3-year, $51 million contract. Now they absorb Garrett's massive salary. How does this impact players like Puka Nacua, who caught 129 passes last year and is currently scheduled to earn a base salary of less than $6 million?
Nacua's situation becomes the ultimate pressure point. Observers have pointed out that Los Angeles actually lost leverage in their contract negotiations with Nacua by executing the Garrett trade. The front office has signaled to the entire league that 2026 is a championship or bust season. Nacua's representation understands that Matthew Stafford's effectiveness is tied to Nacua's presence on the field. The Rams cannot afford a prolonged holdout, meaning they will likely have to capitulate to a market-setting contract for their star receiver, further straining an already stretched salary cap.
The financial gymnastics are fascinating, but the on-field product dictates the narrative. Let us look at the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers have terrorized this division for years with their physical offensive line and punishing running game. According to local coverage, this trade has essentially relegated the 49ers to the third-best team in the division, trailing both the Rams and the Seahawks. San Francisco's offensive line struggles against elite physical defensive fronts, and now they have to face a defensive line featuring Myles Garrett, Kobe Turner, and Braden Fisk twice a year.
Facing that front is a nightmare scenario for any offensive coordinator. The 49ers will get the first taste of this new reality when they open the season against the Rams in Australia. Keep in mind, throwing against the Rams just became a monumental task. Before acquiring McDuffie and Watson, the Los Angeles secondary was a known weakness, relying on aging veterans like Darius Williams, who retired after the 2025 season. Opposing quarterbacks could get the ball out quickly to neutralize the pass rush. Now, with McDuffie locking down the perimeter, the quarterback is forced to hold the ball for an extra half second. That half second is all Myles Garrett needs. He generated an astonishing 613 pressures over his time in Cleveland.
Let us pivot back to the AFC North and the Cleveland Browns. This deal represents a massive ideological shift for that franchise. Andrew Berry admitted their emotions were muddled when making the decision. They drafted Garrett first overall in 2017 out of Texas A&M. He became the sole identity of the team through some very dark years. Beyond the draft compensation, is there a scenario where this trade is viewed as a victory for Cleveland?
The Browns are playing a longer game, and history might judge them favorably if they hit on those draft picks. They secured a 2027 first, a 2028 second, and a 2029 third. More importantly, they acquired Jared Verse. Since entering the league, Verse has registered 99 pressures, second only to Micah Parsons and Garrett himself among young defenders over that span. Cleveland managed to secure premium draft capital while replacing a 30-year-old legend with a high-motor 25-year-old star who is still under team control. It is a calculated retreat, acknowledging they could not win a Super Bowl with their current roster construction.
The rest of the AFC North is likely celebrating this move. The Baltimore Ravens, for example, have faced Garrett twice a year for 9 seasons. In 16 career games against Baltimore, Garrett recorded 14 sacks, 16 tackles for loss, and 23 quarterback hits. The Ravens do not have to face him or the Rams in the 2026 regular season. That single omission from their schedule could be the difference between a wild card spot and winning the division.
The ripple effects are massive. But I want to focus on the persistence of the Rams front office. Reports indicate they first inquired about trading for Garrett back in 2022, immediately after they won Super Bowl LVI, but Cleveland rebuffed them. It took 4 years, a 5-12 season by the Rams in 2022, and a record-breaking 23-sack season by Garrett to finally pry him loose. This was not a desperate, impulsive move. It was the execution of a multi-year acquisition strategy.
It shows a relentless, almost obsessive pursuit of a singular asset. Yet there is a distinct irony in the Rams' approach. We often hear teams talk about building through the draft. The Rams use the draft, but primarily as a currency exchange program to acquire established superstars. They drafted Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson 13th overall in 2026 to secure their future under center, but everywhere else, they trade their premium picks for proven commodities.
It is a fascinating sociological experiment in team building, contrasting sharply with the conservative, risk-averse nature of most NFL front offices. When you trade your first-round pick in 2026 for McDuffie and your 2027 first-round pick for Garrett, you bypass the opportunity to draft cost-controlled talent. The Rams are betting that their elite talent will overwhelm opponents before depth becomes a factor. They are banking on the fact that an offensive line cannot double-team Garrett, Turner, and Fisk simultaneously. They are wagering that a defense cannot double-team Nacua and Davante Adams, who led the league with 14 receiving touchdowns last year, while keeping a safety deep.
It forces opposing coaches to make impossible choices. If a team chips Myles Garrett with a tight end or running back, they remove a receiving option from the route concept. That allows Trent McDuffie to play tight man coverage on the primary receiver without fear of a complex route combination. The cascading effect of a premier pass rusher changes the geometry of the entire field. but we have seen super teams fail in the NFL before. The Philadelphia Eagles assembled a so-called dream team over a decade ago that collapsed under the weight of its own expectations.
The difference here is systemic stability. The Rams have a proven head coach in Sean McVay, who has navigated big egos and star-studded locker rooms before. They integrated Jalen Ramsey seamlessly in 2019. They integrated Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr. during their 2021 Super Bowl run. The culture in Los Angeles is designed to assimilate stars quickly. Myles Garrett, despite his individual brilliance, has never played in a Super Bowl. He is stepping into a locker room filled with champions who know the exact required standard.
Let us dig into the tactical deployment of Garrett. The Rams lost Aaron Donald to retirement a few years ago. Donald was an interior defensive tackle who wrecked plays from the inside out. Garrett is a traditional edge rusher. How does the defensive coordinator restructure the scheme to maximize a player whose primary attack vector is from the outside?
It requires a fundamental shift in how the defensive line operates. With Donald, the Rams relied on interior pressure to flush the quarterback out of the pocket, where edge rushers could clean up the play. With Garrett, the dynamic is inverted. He's going to compress the pocket from the edge, forcing the quarterback to step up into the interior. That is why the development of Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk is so critical. If they can hold their ground and prevent the quarterback from stepping forward, Garrett will simply swallow the play from behind. We also need to look at Garrett's versatility. He is not just a speed rusher, he has elite power and can kick inside on passing downs.
The flexibility to move him across the defensive line creates a matchup nightmare. If an opposing offense has a weak left guard, the Rams can simply align Garrett over that guard on third down and exploit the mismatch. That brings us back to his historical production. He is the only NFL player to record at least 10 sacks in each of the past 8 seasons, spanning from 2018 to 2025. We are talking about unprecedented consistency. But consistency in the regular season does not always translate to the postseason, where the margins are razor thin.
That is the precise reason Los Angeles made this trade. In the playoffs, games are often decided in the final 4 minutes. You need a closer. You need a player who can execute a strip sack when the opposing team is driving for a game-winning field goal. Garrett has 23 forced fumbles and 6 fumble recoveries in his career. He has the physical tools to close out a playoff game on his own. The Rams' offense can score points, but the defense needed an apex predator to finish the job.
We also need to evaluate the emotional toll on the Cleveland fan base. Andrew Berry mentioned that the fans have grown up with Myles, and he is an enormous source of pride for their team. This is a city that has endured decades of football heartbreak. Garrett was the beacon of hope. He played 134 games for the Browns, recording 412 tackles and setting the franchise record for career sacks. Trading him, even for a logical return, feels like a betrayal of the loyalty that fan base has shown.
It is a bitter pill for Cleveland to swallow. Football is a business, but it is driven by emotion. The fans do not care about the salary cap or the 2029 third-round pick when they watch their favorite player put on a different jersey. However, front offices are paid to make the difficult, unpopular decisions. The Browns recognized that their championship window with this specific iteration of the roster had closed. Holding on to Garrett out of sentimentality would have resulted in an elongated, painful decline. This trade acts as a surgical intervention. It hurts immediately, but it is necessary for the long-term health of the franchise.
It forces a hard reset for Cleveland while acting as the ultimate accelerant for Los Angeles. The juxtaposition of the two strategies defines the modern NFL. You are either tearing it down to build for tomorrow, or you are pushing all your chips to the center of the table for today. The Los Angeles Rams have made it abundantly clear which side of that divide they stand on. The true judgment of this trade will be written in February. If Myles Garrett is hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, the draft picks and the contract disputes will be forgotten. If they fall short, the lack of depth and the absence of young talent will haunt them for a decade. Do not forget to send this episode to the biggest football fan in your life so you can debate the fallout together.